So we are live now. You may start the program. Dr. Morami,
Okay.
over to you.
Okay. Namaskar and good evening, everyone. Now it is 5:30 p.m. in India. I am Dr. Morami Talukdar, convener and moderator of today's webinar organized by Department of Anthropology, DHSK College, Dibrugarh, Assam, India. The topic of today's webinar is Anthropology of Performance. It is such a lovely evening that all of we are here. So I welcome the invited speakers and the participants of today's online webinar, online seminar. So my regards to all of you. After Second World War, anthropology is not remaining only about the study of tribal people, but it studies complex societies too. Various modern trends of study in anthropology are percolated now. The anthropology of performance is also not very new, not very old, comparatively new. The anthropology of performance is a branch of anthropology that emerged in the 1970s. Through this branch, it can be learned how performance can be used as a framework to analyze
Dr. Morami, just a minute. We cannot hear you. Just a minute. Dr. Morami, please unmute your mic. Please unmute your mic. It somehow became...
Okay. So through this branch of anthropology of performance, it can be learned how performance can be used as a framework to analyze society. And anthropology of performance helps to learn about the role of different theoretical perspectives as well as socio-cultural diversity. Expecting outcome of this webinar is that the participants will be able to identify different kinds of performance for their social content and effect, analyze forms of performance through micro-anthropological methods, and connect them to micro-anthropological issues. I am not going to details as in today's webinar there are two speakers, Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay, Associate Professor of Vidyasagar University, West Bengal, India, and Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova from Russia, Moscow, Russia. They will speak from the theoretical and also from the practicing anthropology of performances. So I'm much happy that many people, not from only India, but from abroad also registered for this webinar. I hope everyone will enjoy this webinar. So now, a warm word of welcome to our respected Dr. Sasikanta Soikia sir, principal of our college, to come on the virtual dais and to deliver his inaugural speech. Sir, may I request you?
Thank you, Morami. Good evening to all. Myself, Dr. Sasikanta Soikia, Principal, DHSK College, Dibrugarh, Assam, India. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the opening of this international webinar on a topic, Anthropology of Performance. This is a relevant topic for the anthropologist. I feel honored to welcome you all this international webinar, which is being organized by DHSK College, Anthropology Department. This college is a premier institution of Assam, established before independence of the tea city of Dibrugarh, Assam, India. At present, the college is celebrating the Platinum Jubilee. Famous ideologist and Sanskrit scholar Dr. Jogiraj Basu was the founder principal of this college. We take pride to mention here that this institute had taken the initiative to establish Dibrugarh University in 1965. Initially, this college was under Kolkata University, Guwahati University, and at a present, it is under Dibrugarh University. It has produced many notable anomalies The present Chief Minister of our state, Mr. Sarbananda Sonowal, is an alumnus of this college. I welcome Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova from Moscow, Russia, and Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay from West Bengal, India, and participant friends. It is my pleasure to address and welcome the resource persons and the participants from various institutions of India and beyond India. I congratulate HOD, Anthropology Department, Dr. Anupjyoti Bharali, the convener of the webinar, Dr. Moromi Talukdar, Dr. Nitumani Soikia, Dr. Sunanda Sahu, Dr. Bhaskar Das of the faculties of the Department of Anthropology. I wish success of this international webinar, and with these few words, I inaugurate this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to you. So now I deem it a great privilege to welcome Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay, Associate Professor, Vidyasagar University, West Bengal, India. He is one of the invited speakers of today's webinar. But before he speaks, I want to give a very brief introduction of him. So Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay is at present as Associate Professor in the Department of Anthropology with Vidyasagar University. He obtained his MSc with specialization in Sociocultural Anthropology from University of Calcutta. He was first in MSc, securing gold medal. He got PhD from Vidyasagar in 2007. He has 5 books to his credit. Some of them are Samajik, Sanskritic Nivigyan, Prasanga Adivasi, and Life and Lore. He has more than 50 publications in peer-reviewed journals like Asian Ethnicity, Asian Ethnology, Anthropological Notebooks, Journal of the Indian Anthropological Society, Men in India, the Eastern Anthropologies, the Oriental Anthropologies, Indian Anthropologies, South Asian Anthropologies, etc. He is also the editor of Men in India. Besides, he is the managing editor of the Indian Journal of Anthropology, published by INCA, and associate managing editor of Journal of the Indian Anthropological Society. His research interests include history of anthropology, theoretical anthropology, anthropology of religion and art, development anthropology, and folklore, with many others related issues. He is actively engaged with a number of organizations working for the conservation of tangible and intangible heritage. Besides that, he invited and also presented in many seminars. In the last 18th, he was invited as respondent in a worthy seminar of Japan, where I also attended that seminar. So he is I can say that he is a master of anthropology in some aspects. So I welcome Dr. Sumahan, and please deliver your speech.
Thank you very much, Moromi, saying so many good words for me, rather showering upon me. Good evening to everybody, and also to the authorities of the college, Principal Dr. Shashikanta Saikia, Head of the department, and of course, Dr. Moromi Talukdar, and other faculty members who have given me this privilege to interact with you in today's webinar. And I'm also very happy that today we have a very old friend of mine, a renowned scholar in the field of anthropology of performance and dance, Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova, will be talking today. My presentation is titled as Anthropology of Performance, and it is basically a kind of introductory note to the kind of ethnographic exercises or ethnographic account that will be presented by Svetlana Ryzhakova. And my discourse, therefore, will be primarily based on the theoretical and relevant ethnographic references centering around anthropology of performance. And I'm not sure how much my anthropology, my performance in these webinar titled Anthropology of Performance will be of some value to you, but still I shall try to highlight some of the major areas of discourse in anthropology of performance. Anthropology of performance is basically now a subfield of anthropology, but it is a fact that anthropology has been studying performance for a pretty long time, though the domain anthropology of performance is a later development. The conscious attention to the performance was cast at a point of time when we came to realize that all our anthropological enterprises were basically centered upon performance. Such a centrality of performance in anthropology has made this field a major area of contemporary anthropological discourse. I would like to focus primarily on the importance of performance in anthropology and emergence of the field of anthropology of performance with an emphasis on the historical development of this domain. However, I shall touch upon major theoretical issues and their present-day relevance. For a greater clarity in presentation, I have arranged my discussion into two main sections. The first section will introduce the concept of performance, and in the second section, I shall mainly talk about the field of anthropology of performance and its growth. Now, the word performance refers to a wide range of acts and happenstances. It is different from the act of simple doing in its characteristic repetitiveness of action and obligation. The repetitiveness is again marked by a skill gained through socialization or training. According to Kapchan, let me quote from Kapchan, performance are aesthetic practices, patterns of behavior, ways of speaking, manners of bodily comportment, whose repetitions situate actors in time and space, structuring individual and group identities. Insofar as performance are based upon repetitions, whether lines, run, gesture imitated, or discourses reiterated, they are generic means of tradition making. Another scholar, Dayton, he tells us that all events are either occurrences or performances. So we are rather pervaded by, we are engulfed by performances and occurrences. The crucial distinction is that performances rise in response to an obligation, while occurrences do not. Now, if we go by the number of connotations of the word performance, we can follow Philip Auslander, who gives us as many as 7 meanings of the word performance. Of course, in academic discourse, according to him, the first one is the least, as he provided, of the meanings of performance starts with that number one, that a performance is a presentation of an artistic work to an audience, for example, a play or a music or something like that. Secondly, the performance is the manner in which something or somebody functions, operates, and behaves. Thirdly, it is the effectiveness of the way somebody does his or her job. Number four, it is a public display of behavior that others find distasteful, for example, an angry outburst or causes of embarrassment, etc. Next, the fifth meaning of performance is that it is something that is carried out or accomplished. Next, performance is something, a kind of an act or an action, but of course a deliberate action. The language, the speaking, the speech also constitutes a kind of performance when it produces something, some meaning or some understanding. According to the renowned scholar Schechner, whose book Performance Theory is very famous in this domain, states that the performance is an inclusive term. Theater is only one node on a continuum that reaches from ritualizations of animal through performance in everyday life. Greetings, display of emotions, family scenes, professional roles, and so on, through to play, sports, theater, dance, ceremonies, rites, performance of great magnitude. So performance actually includes so many things that it is quite clear. Now, I think we have a clear understanding what it means by performance. It is a kind of action, it's ritual, it is also dance, theater, whatever we do, and how do we present. For example, the way I am presenting myself in today's webinar, it is also a kind of performance. So performance is a very, very wide ranging term. Now, the way in anthropology, we may distinguish between two terms. One is the performance in anthropology, and another is the anthropology of performance. Performance in anthropology, that means the study of performance in anthropology, has a long history, as I have already mentioned. But anthropology of performance, of course, as already mentioned, reiterated, that developed in later years. According to Gatt, Gatt, that the earliest anthropological study of performance was done by Mead and Bateson in 1952. However, the anthropological study of performance, not anthropology of performance, has a longer history. Even in Franz Boas's work we can find, and also as a methodology we have been practicing it for a pretty long time. That I shall come to this point later. But according to Gatt, it was Mead and Bateson who studied in the 50s, 1952, the first anthropological study of performance. And this was basically a film, Trance and Dance in Bali, which was followed by an ethnography by Bello in 1960. But Frank Coram traces the roots of performative study in Malinowski's work, though he expressed that the indebtedness to other scholars of early eras who gave us an understanding of the centrality of performance in the study of culture. And that I am mentioning that the Franz Boas and also Frank Cushing, Alice Fletcher, they are the scholars who studied performance with some emphasis. But at the same time, I would like to mention that some earlier works carried the seeds of performative genre in early works of anthropology, so that the methodological approach to performative study. For example, I must cite the book and the autobiography of a Winnebago Indian by Paul Radin. This book, in this book, we find that this autobiography, the way the book was written in first person narrative of an Winnebago man, acronymed as SB, is basically a narration of what he was actually doing. So as a methodological type, we can say that some earlier examples also carry the seeds of performative study in anthropology. There are some other examples as well. Say, for example, Huizinga study, Homo ludens. These are, or mostly these studies were coming up in the, as already mentioned by Moromi, in the post Second World War period. But truly speaking, its more systematic origin can be traced back to 1950s and 60s in the studies of rituals and ritually oriented cultural practices. Victor Turner, Milton Singer were most prominent figures in this particular domain of study. But Gatt has given us another clue, that the emergence of anthropology of performance was basically linked to the crisis of representation, which was a phenomenon of late 1980s and late 1980s or early 90s. So this crisis of representation was one of the bedrock foundation which catapulted the anthropology of performance. But it is not the right description, I think, because I find that more systematic anthropology of performance has been done by Turner earlier to this emergence. Now for Limon and Jung, the anthropology of performance has three major trends. One is the Marxist notion of praxis. Number two, the cultural display or enactment. That praxis means the action and the similar kind of activities. Cultural display or enactment, that's something culturally done. For example, ritual or festival or something like that. And the verbal art or poetics. These three are major trends of anthropology of performance, as mentioned by Linne. But my understanding is a bit different from theirs, because I would like to trace the roots of anthropology of performance in the scholars in the field other than anthropology. For example, I must cite the name of Kenneth Burke, Irving Goffman, who contributed a lot to the development of anthropology of performance. Now, Kenneth Burke, who was an American writer and literary theorist, advanced the concept of dramatism in his book, A Grammar of Motives, in 1945, in which he dealt with the question that what is involved when we say that people are doing and why they are doing it. So the basic question of Kenneth Burke in his book A Grammar of Motives is that what is involved when we say that what people are doing and why they are doing. This is the question. And he tried to give an answer to this question. The same question can be valid for a recurrent and regular doing, that is for performance. And this is the basics of his idea of dramatism, in which he took 5 principles: act, scene, agency, and agent, and purpose. These 5: act, scene, agent, agency, and purpose. These 5 principles are there in each and every performance. And when you will go to analyze any performance, be it a ritual or a festival or a theater or drama, you can go this way. Now, these 5 principles are basically related to 5 questions. When we ask the question, what was done? It is the act. When or where it was done? It is the scene, the context, the setting. Who did it? It is the agent. How did he did it? The agency. And why? What is the purpose? Why it was done? Then it is the purpose. So this dramatism perspective of Kenneth Barth is quite informative for the later development of anthropology of performance. Actually, Barth took a Shakespearean metaphor that the world is a stage. We often say that world is a stage, and this is a Shakespearean metaphor Shakespeare used in his drama. A little later, some 11 years later, Erving Goffman took this metaphor in a slightly different meaning, sense that the world is, of course, a stage, but we are rather directors than the actors. And as we take different roles, as a director, we define how a particular role will be performed. And that view has been elaborated in his dramaturgical analysis that was exemplified in his very famous book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. And Goffman states that, let me quote from Goffman, that we have been using the term performance to refer to all activity of an individual which occurs during a period marked by his continuous presence before a particular set of observers and which has some influence on the observer. So the point is that he tries to emphasize that all the activities that an individual does, it is marked by a conscious effort to be presented before some observer, and these activities, this performance must influence the observers. So when you are singing a song, you expect a reaction on the observer, on the audience. When you give some speech, you also expect similar kind of reactions, and we will hope that it will make some impact. Similarly, you will present yourself. He calls for this kind of performance. He used the term front, and this front has 3 major components. One is setting, second is appearance, and third one is manner. In later years, we shall find that in Victor Turner's study or study of numerous anthropological oriented scholars or anthropologists, that they have made ample use of these concepts. Victor Turner has referred to both Goffman and also Clifford Geertz while he talked about his own approach, and he identified their approach as symbolic action analysis. In this regard, I must quote a very interesting comment by Concord Good in 1889, who said, talked about Geertz and Turner in the context of anthropology of performance, that Geertz is an influential in-law, having married into the culture as performance family from the powerful culture of text clan. That Geertz is married to culture as performance family, though he originally belonged to culture of text clan, text family. And Turner is the undisputed founding father of anthropology of performance. And this scholar Conquer-Good clearly mentioned the term in 1889, the performative turn in anthropology, while he positioned Turner as the founding father of this new emerging area as of anthropology of performance. It is a fact that the Turner's contribution is immense. He not only contributed number of concepts, but also a kind of methodology that could be applied for the study of anthropology of performance. And by anthropology of performance, he basically meant two things. One is that anthropology of performance is empirically grounded fieldwork studies of performative genres and processes, particularly in non-Western and non-elite traditions. Now we think that it is not only non-elite and non-Western tradition, it can be well applied in our own societies as well. But his idea was like that. And secondly, it was a conceptual development of performance as a paradigm for meaningful action. That when somebody is doing something recurrently with certain purpose, then what should be the meaning behind it? So these two constituted the basic idea of anthropology of performance when Turner advocated it. And Turner, in doing so, gave a very powerful concept, which we all know, that is the concept of social drama. In anthropological study of performance, we very often come across a concept of social drama, by which he meant that it is unit of a harmonic or disharmonic social process arising in conflict situations. These are aharmonic or disharmonic social processes arising in conflict situations, and these conflicts have several meaning. And this social drama, he mentioned, has four major components. One is breach, second is crisis, third is redressive action, and fourth one is reintegration. These four major components are there. Breach means there will be a difference, a disjunction from earlier state. That is a kind of breach. And this breach, why this breach? Because there is a crisis. And now there will be some redressive action and reintegration. Just like drama, the anticlimax to climax, or similar kind of thing we can find in ritual practices. Also in theater or drama, as I have already mentioned. For our life cycle ritual, when we enter into a life cycle stage, there is a disjunction from the conventional way of life, and we pass through a period of crisis, and we do some rituals or some actions to resolve that crisis. For example, the transition, the liminality period, that characterizes that crisis, and we do some rituals to resolve that crisis. And then by some other rituals, we again are reintegrated into the normal society, normal way of life. If, for example, when we may take the case of the Upanayan ritual of the Brahmins, there is a clear-cut disjunction from the other activities. For example, in dance in trance, you will find that there is a breach, a kind of liminal or communitas, and then again they are reintegrated. They are reincorporated into the normal life activities. So this is a kind of dramatic affair as conceptualized by Victor Turner. And Turner took his the cue for his own theory from a very early anthropologist, Arnold van Gennep. You know about it, and I'm not going to elaborate that. So, for anthropology of performance, the roots of theories are very well trenched, quite age old roots. They have why we talk about, when we talk about the contemporary development, we must take into consideration these earlier theoretical understanding that informed our present day understanding. Now, as Turner was influenced by uh, Gennep, he also influenced some other scholars, both in anthropology and in other disciplines, particularly in drama and literature. We may mention the name of Schechner, as I have already mentioned. He was a very powerful theoretician in the field of performance studies, and he gave an idea of fan, performative fan. In performative fan, concept of performative fan, we find the influence of Victor Turner on Schechner. And in this fan actually, it includes certain components which are actually performances. These include the ceremonies, shamanism, eruptions and resolution of crises, everyday life performance, sports and entertainment, play, art, making art, and ritualization. So all these are included in fan, and you can easily understand how Turner influenced Schechner, and Schechner in very clear words acknowledged the anthropologist's contribution in the study of performance. Now, if we talk about the other sources, we must say that the influence of Delheim's the ethnopoetic approach, and also the ethnography of speaking concept. Here he mentioned about a number of uh, mm, mm, components and their reactions to study these particular field of speech event, or any narrative or any action event. And this type of model that Delheim's advocated is very helpful in the understanding of anthropology of performance. And his model basically consists of 7 components and their corresponding functions. So apart from this ethnopoetics approach, we have the influence of folklorists and linguists on the development of anthropology of performance. For example, the Bauman, Ben Amos, Alan Dundes, Albert Lord, Jenny Sivery, all this, and also elderly William Bascom. These folklorists made a tremendous impact on the study of performance. In fact, they have enriched the field. They have taken from anthropology of performance and they have contributed to this field. So in a nutshell, we may say that these performance kind of this study actually being done by a number of scholars, both anthropologists and non-anthropologists, in different fields ranging from ritual, language, cognition, verbal art, and politics, as well as gender. All these are being studied in context and in their performative form. Let me cite some examples of these kinds of study, particularly in Indian context. We may refer to the study of Okos Ostor on Bengali ritual performance. Aston studied the Yakshagana. Hansen studied Nautonki. Schechner and Hay studied Ramlila. Hain studied Raslila. Kathakali was studied, and also find other scholars, say for example Chatterjee's study on the Chou of Purulia. There she has shown how this particular folkloristic performance defining a region, an area, and also defining the identity of the community. In case of Chou, Nachni, Tushu and Bhadu performance of Purulia. this Roma Chatterjee's work, and he also studied the Potua song and how the Potua song is being coming up as a cultural innovation, and how the invention of tradition is being taking place with regard to the study of performance. And also in this regard, I may mention Urmimala Sarkar Munshi's work on the traditional folk dances of Purulia and also the Indian dances. This is also another study, another scholarly work on performance school. And also Kurom did study on Potua song. From Kurom studied on Potua song and Dharmamongol tradition. And my own work on the Bohurupi and the pilgrimage tradition of the Santals. These are also basically study in the genre of anthropology of performance. In the study on the pilgrimage, I have tried to show how the performance is related with politics. They go for a very, very strenuous pilgrimage in a hill called Luguburu. It is a very hard trek on the hill. But with this, they yearly this annual performative tradition actually foster their identity in a very innovative way. So it's a politically also informed. So these are basically the major type of research work done in the performance studies. And sometimes I find that now our anthropological practices, particularly after the writing culture or after the writing culture or in the predicament of culture, all these works, they actually presented before us a new kind of research methodology that is based on performance. Even in the anthropological works, anthropological books that are being written today, these very much reflect the way we are taking anthropology as a kind of performance. For example, let me cite Tim Ingold's book, Making Anthropology. Making anthropology, something that is a performative act. And in this book, he writes that by watching, listening, and feeling, by paying attention to what the world has to tell us, that we learn. So our basic anthropological learning is kind of watching, listening, and feeling. And this way, we are considering anthropology as something, making anthropology as a performative kind of exercise. And also Paul Robinu, another very great contemporary anthropologist, he also writes the book Marking Time. That is also this marking time, another performative gesture. So our contemporary anthropological understanding and writing practice also reflects the way how we are involved in performance. Therefore, our anthropology is basically shifting towards a very major watershed, that is anthropology of performance, we have already entered into it. Thank you very much. I have crossed by few minutes. I thank you once again for the patient hearing. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Sumahan. Yes, Turner is founding father of anthropology of performance. Yes, you are right. Today's webinar is also performance, and you're nicely presented, and speech will definitely help the people, and your theoretical explanatory deliberation will definitely help the people. Now there is an interactive session of 10 minutes, and the participant can write their questions in the chat box. I will forward to Dr. Sumahan. Already there is a question from Abhishek Bhomik. And before that, I want to say that There are lots of congratulatory words for you. People are finding your speech very informative. And that question is that from Abhishek Bhomik. Hello, Dr. Bandyopadhyay. What is the aspect of this? How a dynamic activity is being done or presented or being executed associated with the anthropology of performance as one of its 5 attributes. The agency. Is the agency a physical phenomena in the time span of the ongoing event?
Then what is the question? The question is the last one. Is the agency a physical phenomena in the time span of the ongoing event? This is the question.
Yes, I feel so.
Okay. No, always it is not that it is always a physical phenomenon. It is not always physical phenomenon, because agency is the means by which we do something, because a government agency or the agency of a kind of shamanistic practice or a ritualistic practice, these also constitute the agency. So it is not always a kind of very physical phenomena, and also there is a metaphysical component of it when we talk about a phenomenology of performance. Then when we talk about this phenomenology of performance, we then lift to the level of the metaphysical, not only the physical level of agency. If you have any further explanation, I may deliver.
Okay, there is another question from Shayantan Das. How performance can be used as a frame with which to analyze society?
It is always a frame for analyzing society. For example, you go to study a ceremony or a festival. For example, the Baha festivals of the Santals, or your own marriage rituals. What you will find? You will find all the 5 components at the same time. You may take a Turnerian view of this, and how the breach is there, how the liminality is there, how the resolution of crisis is there, and how you are being reintegrated. For example, in case of marriage rituals, when you are entering through the Odivas ritual and Gaya Hulud ritual, you are gradually getting different from others. You are being separated. Or when you are doing a Gajan festival, when you become a Bhakta, then you are different from others. Then you can wear a thread, you take a different kind of food, your clothing will be different, and you will be passing through a kind of liminal phase when the structure will be inverted. There will be anti-structural properties in your performance. So this way you will be passing through this crisis or this liminal stage, and again through another particular set of rituals, say for example sprinkling of water or taking a dip in the holy water or in the pond, then it will mark the end of this liminal stage, and you will again be re-aggregated into the society. So this type of performance can easily be observed and can be applied. The theoretical understanding of Turner and others can be applied into it. You can take a Burkean perspective, whatever you may like, and can even engage more than one scholars to get answer or to explain a particular event.
Okay, thank you. Same question was asked by someone. Disa Sobe has asked the same question. So probably she is satisfied with the answer. And here Dr. Abhishek Bhomik is also satisfied with your answer. He is giving you thank you. And there is another question that from Suresh Kolangara. Sir, could you please explain the difference in anthropology of performance or performance in anthropology?
Yes, actually I have already in the very beginning stated in clear terms what is anthropology of performance and what is anthropology in performance in anthropology. When you are talking about a particular description of festival or rituals or dance or song of a community, you are talking about describing about performance in anthropology. You take the all earlier ethnography, a book by S.C. Roy, Franz Boas, all these scholars have dealt in detail about the performance in these cultures. But when we talk about anthropology of performance, then our theoretical lens becomes different. Then we try to understand the performance as a particular cultural trope, anthropology as performance, culture as performance, and we are looking into it as a situated object and analyzing it, each component as an individual entity, how it is linked to other aspect of culture, and how they are reflecting the basic senses of anthropological understanding, like variation, making of our world, making of senses, and making of meanings of others' world. This is the way anthropology of performance, this process of understanding or making in as a situated subject, differentiates performance, anthropology of performance from performance in anthropology.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sumahan. If there is any relevant question, you can ask Dr. Sumahan, but questions should be relevant with the topic. Hope there is no question. So I am grateful to you, Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay. Thank you. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you very much.
So thank you. So now I come to the second speakers, Svetlana Ryzhakova. It is my honor, more than pleasure, to welcome to grace the occasion. I welcome Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova here and to the virtual dais. Before the speech of Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova, I want to give a brief introduction of her. Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova is a leading research fellow in Institution of Ethnology and Anthropology, Russian Academy of Science, Moscow. She has been teaching ethnography of South Asia and history of Indian religion in Russian State University for Humanities since 1998. She was awarded a PhD and Dr. Habilitation, Dr. Habis, from Institute of Ethnology and Anthropology, Russian Academy of Science, Moscow, in 1998 and 2011 respectively. Field of research interest of Dr. Svetlana are cultural anthropology, ethnology, mythology and folklore, symbols, regional culture and nationalism, religious practices and performing studies. She did extensive cultural anthropological fieldwork in various parts of India like West Bengal, Assam, Kerala, Karnataka, Rajasthan, etc., and in Baltic countries since 1998. She made several short films. She has ethnographic personnel archives encompasses more than 2,000 hours video and audio recording, more than 5,000 photos, as well as daily diary notes. Her writings include books, Language of Ornament in Latvian Culture, Cultural Anthropology, Indian Dance, An Art of Transformation, Historical Etica, Cultural Etica, Journey to Eternity. Besides this, she wrote several scientific papers in journals and articles in newspapers. She is also a member of several editorial board of scientific magazine of Russia and India. Since 2018, she is serving as a member of examination board in Aligarh Muslim University. She delivered lecture in State University of Latvia, Central European University, Asiatic Society, Anthropological Survey of India, Indira Gandhi National Institute of Art, New Delhi, Delhi University, Calcutta University, Maulana Azad University, Academy of Folklore, West Bengal, and many more. She is members of organizations like Indian Anthropological Society, European Association of Social Anthropology, etc. Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova not only does empirical field study of performances, but she is visiting India for a couple of months every year and studies Kathak from Guru Rajendra Gangani since 1996. We are fortunate enough actually. So she is going to speak about anthropology of performance from case studies she studied. So thank you very much coming to our dais. Now I welcome you to the dais and to speak the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Moromi. Namaskar, dosto. I'm very grateful to Moromi Talukdar and to organizer of the seminar so that I can participate and I can have a talk and to meet my very old and good friend Sumahan, Bandyopadhyay, and all other people, all the audience. So let's discuss today one of the issue which is very interesting, and it's already mentioned by Sumahan, the issue of Transcendence. As far as one of the earliest book related to Anthropology of Performance was exactly about the Transcendence in Bali. So let's continue this study and this topic. And here I just want to show you one artifact collected by me sometimes 2 years before in Kerala. And these are Chilambo. So with this Chilambo, I just ask your kind possibility for me, you know, I'm just asking your permission to start my talk. So this was the way the traditional performers used to deliver the actually trance, but this not only trance, this again some kind of joint action, uniting, combining the expectations of the spectators with their own experience, trance experience, so that with this issue, this elements, which is both a tool and symbol, and I can say these are exactly the agency, as we just discussed with Sumahan. So they are both practical element, symbol, tool, and agency, with the help of the connections between spectators and actors, and as well as connections between spirits, deities, and performers and all spectators is possible. So let me start the presentation so that maybe you can see. Can I just start? So this is the subject of my talk today, and I want to go to one of the very fundamental issues of anthropology of performance, namely emotional aspects. So let's talk about feelings. Of course, we can make a distinction between real feelings and artificial, fake feelings. And obviously, any performance is a certain accumulation of a particular feelings, and ultimately a play with the feelings, manipulation, transformation, unfolding, and many more actions with the feelings and about the feelings. But there is also a discipline of feelings, and we can consider all classical art forms are nothing but a process of disciplinizing of otherwise rough feelings, as well as corporal movement of gesticulation, costumes, and all other equipment of the performers. Here we can remember structuralism and a book written by Claude Lévi-Strauss, sometimes in 1962, La pensée sauvage. So the idea of savage mind, which is mind in its untamed state, as a distinct from mind cultivated or domesticated. But I would argue that binary exists only as an ideal form, because ethnographic reality always destroys the shame. Concerning feelings, there is no clear rough feelings in cultivated cultural feelings. It's always a continuum, a process of formation of feelings, of making them clear, intangible. And this is also kill real feelings, because always in normal life, all feelings exist as a mixture, so as a various ingredients, like some kind of sub-feelings. Trance stays here as the most clear evidence of ultimate reality, when the artists open the doors to another world, or hidden reality of our world. So obviously, people come to theater to smell, to touch this particular miracle, mystical moment when heaven or maybe some hidden reality opens. So let's see how artists, performers, how they are able to do that, to touch something which is very subtle or very high or maybe very dangerous sometimes. And here, of course, I would like to remember one of the stalwarts of Indian performance arts, including performance art, because not only she was actually a historian of art in very broad sense, Kapila Vatsyayan, who just passed recently. And she was also one of the first lady who tried to see in general, who tried to understand both how the disciplinizing of different aspects of dance happens in all formats, actually in all genres, in all dancing genres of India. And also I want to show you the picture of the photo of one of the famous Russian actors. She's a Faina Ranevskaya, and she lived a long life, and she died in 1984. And she was one of the famous Russian actresses with extremely interesting character. But there is one anecdote about her. So one newspaper, one journalist, she came for the interview and asked her, do you forget yourself on stage? And Faina Ranevskaya, who was very a sense of humor, she had it's a fantastic. So she replied that, my dear child, if I would forget myself on stage, I would just fall down from the stage. And also, let's remember the Somerset Maugham, his famous novel Theatre, where he paid attention to that very question: real feelings and fake feelings, artificial feelings, how they connect. And in this novel, the actress Julia Lambert, she played wonderfully if she was not attached to any personal feelings. But the moment she started feel, when she went through real pain, her artistic play became awful. So this is the question of real and artificial feelings and artistic play. Same, but different. Let's go to traditional Indian performance, to the theory, in Indian theatrical theory. So there is a clear distinction between those who enact, play, or so to say, cook, and those who perceive, spectators, those who eat feelings, feel. So in high Shastric Indian theatrical theory, this distinction is very clear. So the filter for real feelings situated in minds, manas, sophistication of feelings is very important, is as much important as pavitra, some kind of filter for soma used in Vedic ritual. So rough, unclean reality is never taken as such for the purpose of high art, just as unclean element cannot be a part of worship or sacrifice. So here art and worship have the same model and same purpose. But in ritualistic drama like a Kola, Bhuta Kola or Daivanyema of Tulunadu or Siri worship again in Tulunadu, there is a figure of impersonator who is a medium. So he is not a priest, he is an actor, but not only the actor, he has an experience of possession. He perceives the essence of story, but at the same time he enacts. So ladies, in Siri worship, they get possessed by Siri and waving inside their own feelings. So it's a combination of different things. All of them do both. So they feel and then enact. In Assam, you know very well, there is a tradition of ritualistic possession during the festival in Kamakhya temple. There is one very wonderful film made by Maria Giligliano so about this this tradition of getting possessed in Kamakhya temple. Again, there is tradition of Suknani Oja Pali, and the study of that tradition was done by my friend Purade Barua from Tezpur. So she did a PhD on that issue, very extensive work. So the story of Deodhani, dance and trance. And actually, any art is balancing on the edge of inspiration, vipra, and controlled by form, matter, rhythm, amplitude of movements. So uncontrolled energy is the essence of both religion and art, and of life as such. But again, all religions and all art forms, almost all art forms, and all social practices are developing mechanism for the control. So here we comes to the question of controlled trance. So simultaneously, it is a part of religion, psychology, and art. There is a fine borderline between them. Of course, practice of controlled trance and controlled possession have a lot of case studies in India. In Bengal, it's like Sumahan just mentioned, Gurjan tradition, Chorok, there is a Chorok dance. In Telugu region, it is a Shakti Vesham. In Manipur, it's a Laiharaoba and Amaibi, tradition of, again, a priestess, so to say, but mediums, ladies mediums, which is Amaibi. In Assam, there is a Deodhani tradition, and again, one male tradition of possession. But special attention should be paid to Tulu area, Tulunadu, which I discovered sometimes in 2013, and I started my fieldwork there, and there are several people who helped me a lot, like Purushottama Bilimalay, Ashok Alwa, and the Regional Resource Center, and Chinnappa Gowda, Vivekarai, Ganesh Amin, and my dear resource persons like Ravish Padumale, Dayananda Kathalsar. So with the help of all of them, I discussed and I was thinking a lot about this region tradition, and there are several articles I already composed and published, and one film is just in the process of making. So let me pay attention a little bit to the essence, to the core essence of this phenomenon, which is very interesting and very important for anthropology of performance, because it combines three things. So possession, spirit possession, which is also exists everywhere in India, but in the case of Tulunadu, we see a strong artistic element in forming of this possession, and again a strong ritualistic element. So religion, devotion, or cult rituals, artistic, which is a pure, even sometimes could be secular in some sense, and psychological elements comes together simultaneously to same extent. Daiva Aradhane, so venerations of the local deities or spirits worship, named variously because there are a lot of different names. It's a Kaliyatam if we speaking about the North Malabar part of the Tulunadu, or it is a Nyema or Daiva Nyema, or there are other names like Maime, or it's a very important institute, ritualistic institutes. So the main role of always male impersonators here is being performed by members of particular castes, Pambada, Parava, Naleke, and Pannara, in case of Kannada or Tulu-speaking area. So they are not mediums, but they rather impersonators. They let deities take a seat in their bodies with the purpose to venerate local deities, daivas, who are very different from the regular Hindu gods and goddesses. And the tradition, the storytelling, the telling of the Pardhana, so the epic, local epic, is a very essential part of this whole institute. It's a living, orally transmitted epic stories, but from one point of view, but it's a certain social mirrors of the local social setup based on the both epic tradition and very intimate connections. So the core of the worship is very similar. It entails an overnight ritualistic performance of welcoming of the spirit or the deity, complete with the impersonation of the god spirits in the case of Tulunadu. So in Tulu language, it's called kolam, which means form, embellishment, decoration, pantomime, festivity, beauty, gorgeous, attire, beautiful, something luxury also. But more clearly, it's just the same as the Sanskrit term rupa. So it's a form. So the whole event happens near the small huts where deities temporarily resides. And a lot of actions should be done before because the impersonators make the costumes themselves, for example. There are many items, many artifacts which has to be prepared before, like decoration, like makeup. And there are also always a certain person who associated with the troupe who is making the makeup. And all things that comes together in the ritual of kola is a socially related, socially connected things. The veneration of the local deities, different from the great goddess of high tradition. So they have the local roots, they have stories, family. Daivas have their own social life, as in the book by Diana Espirito Santo, there is a book named Social Life of Spirits. So we know that only theoretically, but in case of Tulunadu, we just see the embodiment of that invisible life. It just comes into flesh with the help of the bodies of the impersonators. And what is important, that everybody who is involved into this ritual has a particular tasks and a particular limitations, I would say. For example, here we see the transmission of spirit possession, because the impersonators, they belong to a very low castes, the groups which sometimes are not allowed to go even inside these huts. So the other people who, like, for example, they belong to the Bilavao, Pujari caste, little bit higher than Parava or Nalike. So they go inside the hut and get possessed first, and then they come out, and the transmission of spirit possession happens because the performers, he can be present only just in front of the shrine, of the temporal shrine. Again, a lot of fruits, a lot of flowers required for making this ritual. But again, these flowers, these garlands are made sometimes by Christian or by Muslim person, who again are part of the whole event. And here you can see a girl from Pambada community. However, the performers could be only male, but at the same time, ladies from these communities, they always are here nearby. And what is interesting, they know the Pardhana sometimes better than the male society, than the male participants, and they used to recite the stories. So this girl, she's very young and she knows a little bit of the Pardhana. But for example, the mother of one of my main resource, Dayananda Kathalsar, so you can see he's just get dressed, but his mother is being telling the story just in front of him because she's knowledgeable and she knows the Pardhana very well. And some people from Muslim communities, they also participate in the Kola just for holding the fires, because there is no constant like lamp which would stay, but one person requires who is just also helping with these little elements. And again, a decoration of the performance you can see, and there are special bands get organized for making the music during the whole night, and sometimes it's 2 nights of performers. And the core of this whole rituals is a communication, because you see, apart from dancing, getting possessed, the other people of all people of village gather, and a certain communication goes on, where a lot of discussions, a lot of jokes sometimes, a lot of advices, a lot of many interesting things happens between these different communities of the village. And here he takes a rest because it's very long and exhausting procedure. And sometimes the ani, which is decoration, very interesting. It's supposed to be a prototype of the whole stage. So it's a stage before the stage. So like 6 or 7 person required just to hold this decoration, because after that the performers, he will run around the shrine, and here he will just stay and deliver a speech before the people. And then the prasad is also very essential things which is being distributed to all, again maintaining the idea of common efforts, of a joint common effort. So I have studied the Daiva Aradhane sometimes since 2013, and here I just want to offer several observations regarding the features which unites them. First, deities or spirits never constitutes a particular single entity. Yes, they have biographies, but either very sketched or very complicated, which opens a lot of possibility of the improvisation, of application of different meanings. So there is always a legitimation. It's joint action. All castes, everybody, irrespective of the religious affiliation, are taking part. And the whole process of the ritual, sometimes, yes, it is a real possession, but sometimes it's also a fake, because it has a fragmented, and structured by certain script, curated by experienced participant. So I would call it fractal character of the sacred entity, which can assume any form when need. There are particular people mediums who connect the world of deity spirits, which is a human or earthly world. Practice of Aradhana does not constitute a separate religious denomination. Instead, it can be theoretically, I presume it could be a part of Christianity or any other religion. For example, the temporal huts which been constructed for the particular purpose, only for that particular purpose. And again, it would be just refresh in next year. We can compare it with the Garantan, which is ascribed to certain Hindu deities, and very famous all over the North Bengal, for example, and West Assam, for example, where temporarily the fragile figures of gods and goddesses like Tistaburi among Rajbanshi or Mansa Devi or Bishahari, snake goddess, being installed. In this case, in case of Tulu Daiva worship, so the idea of multiplicity is very essential. There are hundreds of them, and each combines both concrete and abstract features. Some animistic approach could be summarized as a set of following elements. First, the deities have no particular and permanent image. However, they can be manifested in any form, in a form of mountain, stone, tree, human being, animal, mask, whatever. So it's very interesting to see how the unlimited spiritual reality just embody itself in various manners. Second, the localization and proper jurisdiction. So these spirits or deities are associated to a particular time and place and have no business outside their own territory or sphere of legitimized activity. So this institute has a lot of limitation from the sense of space, time, again, social elements, because, for example, like in Tulu Nadu, this is only these 4 castes, which could be as a mediums. So yet, still now, there are no other castes are allowed to play these particular forms. So again, some social limitations. So it's a limited in the sense of form. But within the territory of jurisdiction, it is limitless. So all realities, animated landscape, human body, life and fate, day-to-day routine, any activity are strongly interconnected. Whatever happens in one person's life, for example, very intimate story, it makes sense and it being translated into another reality, social reality, artistic reality. So that is why, for example, in Siri worship, there are a lot of disease could be treated, or a lot of problems which supposed to be very different problems, but they could be treated with the help of this institute, just because of the limitless in the sense of energy, Shakti, which possess the performers, but not only the performers. It could be past. So because this spiritual reality, this possession is a uniting, something which unites everything, not only human being, but also the artifacts, also the tangible elements. And the impersonators, Daiva, they are not priests. They have some other profession outside the ritualistic domains. What is interesting, all of my resource person, all of my informants, they simultaneously are something else. They can serve as the workers in the post office, or maybe like Dayananda, or they can be doctors, they can be engineers. So they have some other things to do in their life. But according to the tradition, according to their community tradition, so they have this duty too, to serve as ecstatic medium and artistic, because he's artistically trained into this world as well. So let's go to the conclusion. Social and cultural functions of kola are very interesting and connected. So first, to bring oral memory into mythology, make something random, make it typical. Number two, in enacting narratives, there is a transformation of the real experience into story, into model. So to make something new but old, like a new year, like something annual, again lived through. And number three, so deities come to help people to overcome the difficulties. So let's go back to structuralism, to Levi-Strauss. To do kola means to bring rough reality into a form, because kola is a rupa, form. Impersonators are not independent, are not self-sufficient. So they bring also uncleaned reality into ritualistic space and only partly can deal with it. But here we can see continuum in its best way. So kola happens only in joint effort. All are participants. Purification happens in the mind and the actions of everyone who is there. Because kola means beauty and luxury. And this beauty and luxury should be shared by all. So here I can just want to show you, I don't know whether you will be able to see it. So this is just a small part from the film, which is in the process, and I hope in this year it will be finished, and you can see it in my website. I hope I will just give this link to the film. It's just in the process. So coming back to the first question that we asked, so the trance and dance, it unites maybe two very essential, very old form of the performance as per the definition. So why performance? Why we need the performance? And this possibility for some people to transcend the borders, to cross the limitations, and to gain some other reality, to bring that reality into the level of the other common people. Maybe one of the very important social function which have the people who are performers. And however, of course, all artistic tradition share this element. Again, why we go to the theater? We just want not only to see the story, which we know very well, whether it is Ramayana or Mahabharata or Bertolt Brecht. We want to smell this untamed, this savage mind, this rough reality, which is surrounding the real life. But there is also a disciplining of that form, inevitably. And that's why the theater will be always present in the life of the, even in our today's very special situation when we are just can hope that after some times our real contacts will be refreshing. So I think I will finish now because the time is very short and this institute is very huge, and there are several articles already written by me, and of course there are several more articles which I can advise you to read because it's a quite studied tradition. But if you have some questions, so I will be delighted to answer if I can. Thank you so much again. Thank you to organizers and to my dear colleagues and friends. And I think I will just stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova. And thank you for your very excellent presentations on Transcendence, Spirit Possession, Performance and Ritual in Kola of Tolonadu. It was very lively. You talked from your practical experiences. We enjoyed totally not only your deliberation, but also your PowerPoint presentations and video too. So hope you will be with us in present with us future also. So if there is any questions, the participants can ask. Already one or two questions is there. I want to forward to you. There is a question from Sultana Hazarika Madam from our college. Good evening. Very good presentation, Madam. She said, and there was a questions of her, and her question was just a minute. Lots of congratulatory messages there. So it is difficult to find all the questions. Lots of people are congratulate you and saying that practical presentation, very informative. And then thank you. Then,
yes, there is a nice question. How we can distinguish between real and artificial feelings?
The question is, yes, how can we distinguish between real and artificial feelings?
It's very interesting. It's very fine questions. You know, I think a lot of writers just ask this particular question to themselves. Yes, how we can distinguish between real love and artificial love? I think it's eternal questions. You know, artificial feelings, I think, is just as the same with the food. You know, let's try how we can distinguish between the real food and artificial food. I think real feelings are healthy, but artificial feelings, they are fake. So they will not give a nourishment. There is no continuity after the artificial feelings. So artificial feelings, they get produced for some purpose. So there is a purpose for artificial feelings, but there is no purpose for real feelings. So real feelings, they have some origin. There is some background. So why these feelings are emerged, but there is no purpose. But again, so the most interesting things that this is a continuum. So between real and artificial feelings, there is a lot of steps of disciplinizing, of making. And the moment we can grasp, so where we are, how really or how unreally this particular feelings is this with us. So just try to find out in yourself. For example, when you was in love, so what is the real feelings, or was it some kind of manipulation for a particular purpose with a particular aims, or it was just something what you was overwhelmed with something. So sometimes it's very easy to distinguish, and sometimes it's almost not possible. The question of the masterhood of the person, because some people can hide, you know, the reality, but I think it's a question of purposeness. So the of a goal.
Thank you, madam.
Mm-hmm.
And next question is from Dibba Motivation. Is there practice of culture, inheritance of self-possession transferred to the kin spatially?
Mm-hmm. Cultural.
Hello.
Yes, of course. So what is interesting, you see, this spirit possession is it's a universal reality, but in India again we have a very different cases. There are cases when this spirit possession is just democratic, you can say, so everyone can get possessed. But there are cases like, I would say, feudal, when only the particular community are ascribed to this spirit possession. So a certain, because they have a domestication of this practice, and of course it's social things, because this impersonating, it's not only the possession, they have a lot of other social functions, so they restrict this particular skill for themselves. So in case of Kerala and Tulunadu, which is just neighboring part, okay, it's a north, from Kasargod district to South Kendra of Karnataka. So there is a certain very strong social setup where only particular castes could be the impersonators. So still they just hold on this tradition. They don't give it to any other people. So no one can play Teyam apart from some 5 castes of North Malabar. No one can perform Kola apart from 4 communities of Tulunadu, which is the Parava, Nalake, Pambada, and Pannara. So these only 4 can be, the impersonators. The thing is that not everyone can, they can do also some other job. They're not necessarily the mediums, but rather they would do this job, because it's a problem of prestige. It's a question of social distinction, of social atmosphere. So they are honored to do these things. But it's interesting things. I would compare, when I was thinking, how can I compare it with what I can compare this inheritance? It's like a vehicles. All of them call themselves vehicles. Like in Kamakya temple, they call the Ghora. So they are Ghora. They are horses. When the deities just take a seat in the bodies of this bhakta. The same with the Tulunadu. So they are vehicles. They think themselves like a taxi. So it's a taxi park. And they let the God and spirits come inside of them. So they are not God themselves, but they are just vessels. They are vehicles. They are cars where gods could take seat. And they are registration. They have, this technical equipments. So this is inheritance. So the inheritance of the skill, the inheritance of the knowledge of the story. So Pardhana, they know the Pardhana. So they know the specificity of the particular deities. So the character of the deity. So they know the danger of the deity and of the roots. So somehow it's a shamanic. I could say we can slightly compare it with a shamanistic job. So they know the path, they know the job. So they are like a taxi drivers or taxi, which contain the holy reality. Of course, even you can be possessed. If I go to the ritual, yes, there is a possibility that I will get possessed, but not necessarily. But the thing is, I don't know the technique, how to deal with this reality. So something can happen with me, maybe unknowingly or consciously or unconsciously. So they just try to protect other people from that things. So because they know the job, they know how to do it. So they are the vehicles. So what is the inheritance is the skill inheritance, I would say, formed in the strong social formats.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. There is a question. Probably this is the last question. The question is from Abhishek Bhomik. Sufism is one religious approach to where there is mysticism in the form of trance and ecstasy. There have been accounts of Sufi saints dying while in the state of trance. Uzbekistan, a part of former USSR, was an epicenter of Sufi movement. Central Asia and eastern part of Russia, like Tatarstan, Dagestan, Kazan. Probably you are also looking at the question. And Caucasus region are pro-Islamic mainly, but they have flexibility in religious practices. How has Sufism reformed in these areas? Has there been any blend? It was a long question.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a very good question and it's a very long question. I think it's a question for one lecture.
Yes.
A huge subject. Yes, but what I can say that former USSR and all regions mentioned in the questions, yes, they are part of both traditional religions, which are sometimes similar to shamanism, of some local religions. They also have that, and of Islam. I would say that it was no fundamental Islam over there. So all of these countries or cultures, they have a very huge story of themselves, even Tatarstan. So they say, for example, in Tatarstan, they are proud to say that we always have a moderate Islam, very secular Islam in a sense, and quite developed society, from other different point of view. Yes, but Sufism is also part of all of this territory because of the culture. Somehow Islam brought together many things, including Sufism. Yes. It's not like they have a very specific tradition, distinguished tradition, but some kind of Mevlevi, for example, Mevlevi order is there. And yes, there are certain local tradition. In my institute, we have several people who specialized in this subject. For example, like in North Caucasus, so that it was always a lot of traditional elements which connected to the local veneration of local deities and a strong etiquette. For example, in North Caucasus, they have a very strong tradition of veneration of the elders and sacred geography, which is local sacred geography. So it's not only Islam, which is oriented to Mecca, you know, and Saudi Arabia. No, it's a local tradition, which are still there, somehow intervened. But the problem is that, yes, politically, maybe nowadays the times is changing, you know, so people maybe forget some very local and traditional elements and part of the religion, but it is still there. It is still there. So they have a tradition of sheikh and tradition of murid. So connection between old generation and new generation. So the dargah, so the veneration of the local holy persons is there. You know, I composed, it will be an edition of one journal, which is the Studia Religiosa Rosica in my university where I'm teaching. So there is very nice journal. And the next volume will be dedicated to the miracle. So I just combined several articles related to the subject. And there is one colleague of mine who is Ahmed Yerlikapov. So he composed a very nice article about Nogai steppe. So about this particular question of Sufism. So how the local traditional people with a, you know, it's a gene. So it's a veneration of genes, local genes, and the people who possessed by genes, so who have the genes. So it is still there. For example, like in Nogai, it's a Dagestan. So this is Republic of Dagestan. So yes, there are, it could be, field work could be done. So you can discover that still a lot of traditional, purely ethnographic elements are surviving there. So these things are there.
Thank you, madam. There are another two questions. One is from RK Fanindra Goda. Hello, madam. Thank you for the informative speech. Do you think the essence of performance is diluting day by day?
I think the essence of some forms diluting day by day. So yes, so there is a dying tradition, unfortunately. Like, you know, I studied the Bhavai. In Gujarat, there is tradition of Bhavai theater. Yes, and now we can acknowledge that unfortunately it is not it is not in that stage as it used to be once upon a time. So it's diluting, but it's been diluting since last 1.5 years. So it's a slow, very slow diluting. So I think the state of Hawaii somehow very similar to the beginning of 20th century. So it's a slowly diluted, but this is Bhavai. But I don't think the performance will die. No, it's just take another forms, another shapes. Maybe we don't like these forms. Maybe we don't like Bollywood, especially in particular, you know, Avatar of the Bollywood. Maybe we like Bollywood of 50s and 60s and not of today's times. So it's a pity of diluting of forms, but not the performance as such, because it has a universal form. So it will be necessary, you know, like food and shows, food and spectators. From Roman time, it will be sustainable things. So people like shows, people want shows. The question of formats. So formats can be changing, yes, and some of them are dying, unfortunately.
Yes. Correct, madam. And there is the last question from Suresh Kulangara. Congratulations, madam. Very good presentation. My question is, why this kind of performance exists in Tulunadu? What is power structure exists in that area?
Yes. I was also thinking about that. Why, sometimes because of the poverty. You know, Tulunadu, it's a marginal place. You know, it's just a periphery of a big kingdoms. See, Mangalore it's a major city, the biggest city. Otherwise, there are several other small cities as well. So I would say it's because it's a marginal place of Vijayanagar Empire. So once upon a time, it was just the most south direction. So there are some offspring of Vijayanagar kings who are ruling there. Small kingdom are there. So it's a marginal, and somehow again, you know, discussing with Purushottam Belemalai this issue, I got also the answer maybe. So that was his idea. Why? Because of the land property. In Tulunadu, if you buy a land, if you buy a house, so you buy a local deities with all the duties. So you must venerate them, irrespective whoever you are. Are you Christian? Are you Muslim? Are you Hindu? Whatever. Are you maybe totally out of any kind of religion? So, but you must perform the ritual. So once in a year, you must ask these particular people to fulfill the rituals. So it's a question of land property and the formation of the organization of the revenue, of the land revenue. So they have the conservatism. I would say it's a cultural and economical conservatism, which just hold the tradition alive.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you. It was a nice interactive session. The questioners are thanking you, means they are satisfied with your answer. So thanks to both the speakers. When both of them were approached with an invitation and requested to grace our event as invited speaker, did not hesitate a moment. Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay, my friend, and Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova both instantly agreed. So this is the time of vote of thanks. I welcome our head of the Department of Anthropology, DHSK College, Dr. Anupjyoti Bharali, for giving his vote of thanks from the Department of Anthropology.
I think.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. Dr. Anupjyoti Bharali. Probably there is internet problem. We are five permanent faculties in the department. Dr. Anupjyoti Bharali.
Dr. Moromi.
Yes.
Dr. Moromi. I think Anupjyoti Bharali is there. I think there is some connection problem. Let us just wait for a minute. Okay. Let us wait for around 1 minute. Okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting. So we are 5 permanent faculty in the Department of Anthropology, the DHSK College. Now Dr. Anupjyoti Bharali is head of the department. Myself is Dear, and Dr. Nitumani Saikia, Dr. Sunanda Sahu, Dr. Bhaskar Das are there. All of them are here. They are giving thanks to both the speakers, and they are saying that it is a very nice presentation of both of you, and lots of comments are here, points to point in clear explanation. Madam, thank you. There are lots of thanks to Dr. Sumahan also.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Dr. Anupjyoti Bharali is here. So now please you give your vote of thanks. Hello.
Hello.
Anupda. Yeah, Anupda, please give your vote of thanks.
Hello.
Yes, we are listening to you. You are audible.
Okay. It's my pleasure to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this wonderful occasion. I think I should thank Dr. Sasikanta Sekia, the principal of our college, for his diligent leadership and for his welcome address. I want to extend my special thanks to both the resource persons, Dr. Sumahan Bandyopadhyay of Vidyasagar University and Dr. Svetlana Ryzhakova of Institute of Ethnology and Anthropology of Moscow for their thought-provoking and valuable speeches. I think we have learned many new things from their explanatory lectures. I would like to thank all the participants for their active participation.
Dr. Marami, I think there has been some connection problem with Dr. Onu.
Okay.
We are not able to see his video also. I think he's trying to join, but there are some connection problems.
Okay, let's continue. And thank you to the speakers. Thank you to the participants. There are lots of participants are here. There are registered participants from Moscow, Bangladesh, and from Mexico also, and definitely from India, from states, different states of India. I owe thanks to all of you, and I thanks principal sir, speakers, participants, our head of the department, and other faculties of the department. And I thank the technical person, Akasdeep Datta also, and particularly, I thank you all for attending the occasion. Without participation, this occasion would not be successful. That is why I thanks all to the participation and attending persons, and for your active participation. Lots of comments are here, and now I want to conclude the webinar, but before that, I request all of you to stand up because I want to conclude the seminar through our national anthem. Thank you very much. Just a minute. Akasdeep.
So,
Thank you very much. This webinar is at the end. Thank you, Madam Svetlana. I don't know how I will thanks to you and Dr. Sumahan. It was really a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Marami. It was our privilege and I'm very proud to be with you today. Thank you very much. I hope we will meet in real life also.
Yes. Definitely we have to meet. Dr. Sumahan is also my friend. I welcome both of you to Assam. We'll meet. Probably COVID-19 will help us to meet. Okay. Thank you for today.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.